Welcome to Morfanime. I'm your fan of more anime, and today I want to discuss, I will be reviewing the One Piece TV special 3D 2Y. Yes, this TV special was actually pretty damn good. Honestly, very good. I've watched a few of these One Piece TV specials now, and they are hit or miss. A lot of them are really good though, and this is one of those. And even the bad ones are still enjoyable because you get to spend time with the crew you normally wouldn't get to, just because another adventure that might not have happened in the chronological manga, or it might not be canon, but this could easily be canon, and if I mentally consider it canon because it fits perfectly in the 2-year time skip. This special is based during the 2-year time skip, during Luffy's training with Rayleigh. Is it Rayleigh? Riley? I don't know. It's hard to say. But not only does this focus on Luffy's training, we get a little bit of that at the beginning of the movie, but it also puts the spotlight on one of the best female characters in all of One Piece, possibly all of anime, Boa Hancock. I got a Boa Hancock figure up here behind me somewhere. Because she's fan-freaking-tastic, and yes, she gets a lot of screen time here. Really, if I was going to tell you right here, right now, before I get too deep into this special, the 3 main characters of this movie, other than the villain, or protagonists, I guess, are Monkey D. Luffy, Boa Hancock, and spoilers, Buggy. Yeah, Buggy makes a major appearance in this movie. He kind of fills that Sanji role. If Boa Hancock fills the Zoro role, if you know what I mean, if you catch my drift, if you are picking up what I'm putting down. Well, this whole special, before I get into the entire plot and I spoil the whole thing, if you haven't watched 3D 2Y, I highly suggest you turn off this video and you go watch it, and then you come back and listen to my review about it. And that's my suggestion. You don't have to do that. You can listen to this whole thing and get fully spoiled and still have a great time. I really think so, but there's a lot of fun surprises, and I don't want to ruin them. So, this bad boy kicks off with probably my least favorite part of the special. Was like a maybe 10-15 minute, it felt like it at least, montage of Marineford, which is great and all, but I just, watched all of Marineford. I don't need to see a highlight reel of Marineford. It actually turns out to be Luffy dreaming. Luffy's almost got like a PTSD type situation going on here. He's remembering the death of Ace. I mean, it's still fresh at the time. I'm sure he still feels that pain. That was the biggest loss that Luffy has ever faced in his entire life that he can remember, I guess. I mean, anything else might have happened when he was a baby. But, I mean, he lost Ace, and now he's getting trained by Rayleigh. And I'm a big fan of training arcs, especially when they explain the new maneuvers, the new transformations and whatnot. We learn the basics about hockey from Rayleigh. He shows some of Luffy's training, how he learns armament hockey and observation hockey. Like at one point he wraps a blindfold over Luffy, and he's got to fight a bunch of crazy animals on that weird island that they were training on. It's a whole ordeal. It's actually really fun to watch. It kind of reminiscent of when Goku trained with Master Roshi. It gives me those nostalgic feels. It's really cool to see just a glimpse into what their training might have been. And it looked like they had a good time as well. Another thing that I didn't like before we get into the main plot of the story, after this, the whole thing's fantastic. Luffy goes into another montage where he thinks about his crew, where we see the whole crew. We see like a little highlight reel of the crew where he's like, I need to get back to my crew, which is great and all, but I'm not I don't want to see a highlight reel of the crew, and I get the feels. It's not a big deal. It's not that big of a deal. I think at the beginning of the movie, I was worried that this entire special was just going to be a bunch of flashbacks of shit I've already seen before. But it doesn't turn out to be that. Just the beginning, they set it up. They show you the death of Ace. They show you the rest of the crew, but that's it. You don't see the rest of the crew for the rest of the movie after that, which is good because if you did and Luffy ran into him, it would kind of ruin the whole return to Sabaody where they all meet up again 2 years later. So whoever put this TV special together had to keep the crew apart. So I also thought we wouldn't see a lot of other characters, but I was wrong. So Luffy's training with Regale. They're doing their thing together. It's a great old time. But we find out there's a prisoner who escaped from Impel Down after the incident that happened with Blackbeard and whatnot. A prisoner that didn't join the Blackbeard crew. I believe they said he was from level 6. Byrnndi World, who actually turns out to be a decent villain. Byrnndi World, who had been in prison for 30 years. This guy gets out. He gets freedom. We actually get to see a lot of his backstory during this special. This guy, they show him as a kid with his brother, his sickly older brother, who's smaller than him. They wanted to become pirates so they could be free. They want to be the freest people, very similar to how Luffy feels about being a pirate. They were good kids. They grew up in a shitty island, poor, but they wanted to go out and just make a name for themselves, but also they didn't want to go cause chaos. But when we meet Byrnndi World after being in prison for 30 years, actually I believe he was frozen on ice, so I'm assuming at some point Aokiji or whoever had the ice fruit froze him. Somehow he was frozen. So I guess whatever happened when he was captured, he woke up and he remembered. It was like a couple weeks ago. It's very unclear according to the special, but he's a rugged man. He's been through some shiz. He's had some bad hands dealt to him. I mean, he's had confrontations with Garp and Sengoku. And the only reason he got captured in the first place was because his crew was infiltrated by CP0, the secret government organization. I believe it was CP0. It was one of the CPs. They were secretly part of his crew, and they also paid off other members of his crew. Only his top diggity dogs stayed loyal, but that wasn't enough. He was overwhelmed. He was surrounded. Byrnndi World didn't stand a chance, but he did get captured. He was locked up for 30 years, but he's a total beast. He's got a cool, I guess cool devil fruit ability. I couldn't remember the name of it, so I wrote it down here on my phone. Byrnndi World's devil fruit is the Moa Moa Nomi. It's a paramecia devil fruit that allows the user to amplify the size, speed, and strength of any object they touch. And it's kind of ambiguous because it seems like you can do a lot with that. He could like pick up a rock, throw that motherfucker, and then turn it into a boulder the size of the moon. And he can amplify its speed as well. So that's pretty OP if you ask me. You got to be pretty strong to deal with that. Also, Byrnndi World is very good at armament hockey. And I believe he could possibly lace the items he picks up with armament hockey and throw those and make them even more brutal. That would be even crazier. I don't believe he does that during this. I can't remember. But his crew, the ones that didn't turn on him, who I also couldn't remember their names for the life of me, so I wrote it down here on my phone. And his crew their names are BioJack, or I'll just call him BoJack. He's his older brother, the little sickly man. He's like his first mate. Garaham, who kind of looks like Dr. Eggman from Sonic the Hedgehog. Nighton, who's like this old lady, this old crazy lady. and Sebastian, a fishman who's blind, which actually comes into play later when they fight Boa Hancock. These guys are his main dudes, and and chick. These four got together for 30 years. I'm assuming they did odd jobs. They did whatever it took. They built the dream ship. I guess while they were a crew 30 years ago, they talked about what could they do to be more free, be the freest pirates in the world. So they wanted to build the ultimate battleship. And I mean, his brother, who's a little kinder, the sickly one, thought, okay, yeah, we'll have this really scary battleship with a scary cannon on it. And we'll use it as a threat, but we'll never actually use it to hurt anybody. I don't think this guy understands what the traditional sense of a pirate is. But Byrnndi World quickly, he's gotten jaded, and he wanted to use this motherfucking cannon on some Marines. Byrnndi World wants to literally burn the world down. He wants to see the world burn. He's sick of their shit. He's sick of the Marines. He's sick of the world government. And he'll stop anybody who gets in his way, whether they're pirates or civilians. It doesn't matter. He will cause havoc. Okay, so this guy's free, and he's causing problems for the Marines. There's the beginning when we first see him. You see him he times his crew. He'd be like, hey, you have 5 minutes to take out that Marine ship and all the crew on it. And if you don't, you're out of the crew, or you're going to be punished or some shiz. So he's sending his new soldiers that he collected, his crew collected, it's just test them out, I guess, and they fail. Eventually, Byrnndi World says fuck them, and he ends up taking them out with his devil fruit ability. Byrnndi World, I do like him for a TV special. I think he would be a boring character in the regular canon, I guess, compared to most of the really, really good villains. But he's better than some of the shitty ones. I would say he's better than Wapol in a lot of ways. He was more intimidating, at least, than Wapol. Wapol, I guess, would be more funny. But I do appreciate the flashbacks we got about Byrnndi World. I appreciate the amount of care that they gave us in this movie. Well, I guess it's not a movie. It's a TV special. But it was like an hour and 45 minutes, so you can call it a movie. It's worth watching, people. So Luffy's training, I mentioned that. And Boa Hancock, who's not too far away at the island of Amazon Lily, she tells her sisters, if you remember her sisters, the one that fought Luffy back at Amazon Lily arc, to go bring Luffy some food, some special food that she prepared for him. And she doesn't want to go because she doesn't think she can handle seeing Luffy. Plus, she was told not to distract his training and whatnot. I'm not sure how this doesn't distract his training, but they do bring him some really delectable-looking food, like a pile of it. More than an average person can eat in one night, for sure. But our boy Luffy was like, look at this little bit of a snack here. But because of that, eventually, Byrnndi World shows up. He has an idea. He wants to capture Boa Hancock. The reason why is the Marines decided that they want to capture Byrnndi World. So they decided to call in the Shichibukai, the warlords of the sea. And when he finds this out, he actually asks his brother, what the fuck is a warlord of the sea? Which tells me, big brain here, that the warlords of the sea, that whole system, hasn't been around for a long time. If Byrnndi World's been in prison for 30 years, he even explains, like, this happened while he was in prison. So the warlord system has probably only been around maybe 20 years, 15. The warlords we know of might be the first generation of warlords, which is pretty wild. I mean, I assume that the warlord system has been in place since the beginning of the world government, or at least since the beginning of piracy. But no, it's relatively new to this world. And that's kind of interesting to know. And I believe that's a canon fact. So he goes and he's like, I'm going to capture Boa Hancock because she's closest. And they see Boa Hancock's ship, and they think, okay, well, she's got to be there. But really, her sisters are there. And Byrnndi World, big brain, decides to capture her sisters, which kicks off the real plot of the movie, where Boa Hancock actually does get to meet with Luffy again, and they get to team up, fight together as a duo. So you're thinking, okay, Boa Hancock is actually not acting like, she's not being the lovey-dovey version of herself all the time, because she's got to be focused, she's got to be serious, she's got to save her sisters. And she gets to work with her man. She gets to work with Luffy. It's great. And Luffy gets permission from Rayleigh to go save them. They end up hitting the road. They find Byrnndi World's ship. They have to fight the fishman Sebastian, the blind fishman that I mentioned earlier. When I first met him, he had the sunglasses, and I didn't know he was blind, and I was like, well, he's screwed. He's going to get turned to stone. Nope, not today, folks. I was wondering how they were going to get around her ability to turn pretty much anybody into stone, unless you don't find her attractive somehow, some way. It turns out if you're blind, it doesn't matter. You can't see her. So she actually gets to fight him along with Luffy. And we also find out that Buggy is here. Buggy and his crew, the new Shichibukai, the new warlord, Buggy. He shows up, and I'm like, what? We're going to include the warlords as well? And I was wondering if we were going to see Whitebeard's supposed son, Weevil. He does not show up. But another warlord shows up. Oh, yeah. Bow, bow, chicka, chicka. Yeah. Hawkeye Mihawk shows up on his little coffin ship, tagging along with Perona. Perona, one of the best females in the series, according to me. One of my favorite chicks in the series. She shows up as well for a hot minute. She makes a cameo. She doesn't get to do a whole lot. She does her little floating thing. Luffy actually sees Perona. I'm assuming they left Zoro back on the island to train with those monkey swordsmen. But we get to see Perona, and that made me pop. I was like, what? That's sick. Luffy and Boa Hancock do take down Sebastian, and they move on, and even Byrnndi World is disappointed in his boy Sebastian. But Buggy actually gets to have a lot to do in this movie. And when I was watching it, when I saw Buggy, I'm like, if he gets to have a fight, this movie just went up a couple points for me. And he does get to be a part of a fight. Kind of like how Sanji would fight the third weakest or the third strongest villain. Buggy kind of fills that role. He kind of fills those shoes here. And it's pretty great. And Mr. Three's with him. I don't believe Alvida was with them. Whatever. That's fine. Mr. Three and his whole crew of pirates that broke out of Impel Down, who absolutely worship him, are there as well. So they become a major factor in this bout, in this fight, in this TV special. They end up inside the ship. Luffy gets his ass beat at one point by Byrnndi World the first time they fight. Typical One Piece movie logic. Luffy's got to lose, and then later he's got to find a way to win. It's all that fun stuff. We actually get to see a very sexy fight. A lack of a better word. A fan servicey fight. Yes. Boa Hancock fights the old scientist lady, who I think had a devil fruit ability, but I do not remember what it was. Her name is Nighton, and I had mentioned that earlier. She has these wacky glasses and whatnot. She's an older lady now. 30 years ago she wasn't, but she's an old lady now, still loyal to Byrnndi World. They go at it in this very, very fan servicey fight. At one point, she rips all of Boa Hancock's clothes. You can see some side under boob. She herself, the old lady, takes this potion that makes her young again, and then she's all voluptuous and whatnot. So now these two hot chicks are fighting, and at one point Boa Hancock's like, I'm just going to turn you into stone. Nobody, not even the female gender, can resist me. And she's about to do her love beam, and the old lady snorts a bunch of spices so she doesn't get turned on, I guess. But it doesn't work for long, and eventually the spices aren't enough. There's one point where Boa Hancock's taking names and kicking ass. She does these kiss pistols. There's a really cool scene where she like kisses her finger a few times. It goes boop, 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 lines up a bunch of bullets, and then fires them all at once. It's really cool. This fight scene actually, other than the fan service, was great, was really good. And eventually she does do the love beam, turns the chick to stone, and wins the day. Later, Buggy ends up fighting the Dr. Eggman dude who has the ability who has the cube fruit, I believe it's called, and he can turn things into cubes. There's a video game that kids play where they build stuff with blocks and shit. That's kind of what it reminded me of, but he looks like Dr. Eggman. This guy is going to fight Buggy Clown, who's kind of like, pretending to be tough because his crew's around. And Buggy's actually gets some cool fight scenes in there, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Before I get too far into this, Buggy actually mentions before the confrontation, before they actually enter Byrnndi World's ship, he mentions how he wants to take the credit for beating Byrnndi World. Like, he's going to let Luffy and Boa Hancock do all the work. And then he's going to be like, I did it! The warlord, Shichibukai, I did it! And when he sees Hawkeye Mihawk, he's like, he's going to take all my credit! And I was hoping, and I'm pretty sure at the end we see a little newspaper clipping that shows Buggy in the newspaper saying that he did it. I can't remember, I think it was all in Japanese, but I think it showed that Buggy, the new warlord of the sea, saved the day. But when he does fight Dr. Eggman, he does go for the Muggy Ball, and he launches it, and it causes a bunch of smoke and whatnot, and it really seemed like, we also get to see Little Buggy, where parts of his body aren't there, so that was fun. That was a little callback to back in the Dizay when he lost his torso and whatnot. Buggy actually takes the credit for beating this Eggman guy when Boa Hancock comes in and lays down some whoop ass. Buggy wins the day. Basically the crew, other than Mr. 3, thinks that he'd saved the day, which is great. Very wonderful. I love Buggy. I'm super glad that he got a lot of spotlight in this movie. Unexpected spotlight. Eventually, Byrnndi World does get beaten by Luffy in a one-on-one fight. Byrnndi World has this emotional talk with his brother. They're like, we're supposed to be good pirates, and we just want to be free. And he's like, no, you guys abandoned me. He thought that they abandoned him when he was captured, but really they realized there was nothing they could do. And he doesn't think about the fact that they spent 30 years building his dream ship for whenever he got out of Impel Down. They had no guarantee that Byrnndi World would ever get out of Impel Down, but they still spent all that time and every berry they had to build this super ship that anybody would be proud to sail. This metal ship. Even Frankie would be impressed. This guy does eventually get beaten when Luffy discovers his ability Red Hawk, the move he debuts in the anime, in the manga, against Hody Jones. But yeah, he kind of figures out Red Hawk. We kind of get to see the origin story of Red Hawk. I still am unsure how Luffy's Gum Fruit produces a Fire Fist. My assumption is he's doing the same thing that our boy Sanji does. He's like using friction, like rubber friction, and he's just like, here's some burnt rubber fist. Red Hawk, yeah, fire, I like it. But we get to see the origin of Red Hawk, which was pretty dope. I really enjoyed that part when he beat the dude. He still wasn't going to go down at all. Akainu shows up with an army. They're going to basically do a buster call onto Byrnndi World. Byrnndi World pulls out the giant cannon, and he's going to launch a giant cannonball where he could make the cannonball humongous, like the moon. And he launches the attack, and you think, well, what is Akainu gonna do? What is he gonna do now, huh? I was really stoked. I was like, maybe Akainu is gonna fight Byrnndi World, and we're gonna see him take him down officially. Nope. Hawkeye Mihawk, who showed up earlier in the movie, just kind of waited outside. He actually showed up to do his motherfucking job. He's actually the most professional warlord I've ever seen. He does not want to lose his position. He loves it, being a warlord, I'm guessing, because he shows up and he slices this giant cannonball in half. He destroys the cannonball, saves the day, does his motherfucking job. Mihawk was there. It kind of reminded me of Beerus in Dragon Ball Super, where you're like, there's this badass outside, this god-level opponent, Hawkeye Mihawk. And at any time, if he wanted to go in there and beat Byrnndi World, he could. But he's chilling, just waiting for his moment. He's going to see what the younger generation's going to do before he decides to step in. And I appreciate that, Hawkeye. So they save the sisters, which is great. We get to see Byrnndi World go down in a blaze of fire. I believe he dies. I think he dies. Either they die or they get captured. But I think they die in a blaze of glory. It was kind of sad, but him and his brother, who got to set sail together for many years, it's kind of got some emotional ties in it, and you appreciate that by the end of the movie. I sure did. I love when they can take things like this, like a 2-year time skip, and they can shoehorn a decent TV special and or movie and make a good story out of it that makes sense and doesn't fuck with the canon. And it actually can be a little headcanon-y because it fits. It fits great. I'm telling you guys right here, right now, go watch this special if you haven't already went and did it, because it's a really good one. I would say it's not as my favorite TV special so far. I would say my favorite TV special is The Adventures of Nebulandia, the one with Foxy. It was really good. Movie quality. This was movie quality too. I think if I went to the movies, maybe because I got to watch it on my big screen TV, in my recliner, and with my snacks, I wasn't, disappointed in anything. I had a great time. Even though we were missing characters like Sanji and Zoro, I didn't feel like I was missing them. You had a great replacement with Hawkeye Mihawk and Buggy. Does Buggy have a last name? Please comment down below. Before I sign out here, don't forget to buy the Morfanime t-shirt. Become a Morfanimaniac by subscribing to this page, wearing the Morfanimaniac t-shirt. Y'all are my Morfanimaniacs, my subscribers. I thank you, I love you, I appreciate you. Big things are happening with Morfanime. We are growing to another level. My wife put together this whole studio thing with all my badass anime figures. There's even more of them over there on that wall. Maybe I'll set up the camera next time to see those figures, but all my One Piece boys are right here and gals. I'm loving it. I'm loving this. I'm loving the ability to do things here with my hands, and I got my water here. It's great. It's just wonderful. I love One Piece. I love my Morfanime page. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.